welcome to another video. I'm going to be making a Christmas card today with some foiled die cuts. I'm also going to share with you how I stretched my stamps to make them bigger than what they are. So I'm using two products from Ellen Hudson. I've got the Home and Hearth dies on the left, which are still available. I'm using the Cozy Christmas on the right as well. That is no longer available. However, I will try and leave something listed and linked down below that is very similar. So I am starting off with a 3" by 4¼ I believe inch panel, and I am going to go ahead and put in this 3" circle that I've die cut. I want to center this right in the middle of my panel of white cardstock. I've added a little bit of tape on the back so it's going to stay put. I'm using my Misty for stamping today, so I can go ahead and double stamp my images. I'm doing a multi-toned image, and I also want to be able to center the stamp and flip my paper over so I get a nice centered image on both the top and the bottom. Now I want my wreath stamp to go ahead and fit that circle. That's another reason I put this in there. That's going to kind of guide my stamp as I stretch it and move. That is one of the great things about clear stamps. You can really bend these. I mean, you can see how much I'm bending this wreath and really making it work for my card that I want to make. So I'm just opening up both of those sides of the wreath using my Misty grid to kind of make sure everything's even, and also using that circle to make sure I have it nice and even as well. Now, like I said, another reason I'm using my Misty today, I want to do some two-tone stamping. So I've got two different colors of Memento ink. I've got Bamboo Leaves and Olive Grove. I'm going to go ahead and start by inking up my stamp with Bamboo Leaves. I want to ink up the entire stamp and I'll stamp it down. Now this is a little bit lighter than what I was going for, so just to get it to darken up a little bit, I'll give it a second stamping. This is another reason I love my Misty. I can really get so many tones of ink with just a few ink pads just by double stamping or doing ghost stamping as well. Now I'm going to come in with my Olive Grove ink, which is just a shade darker, and I'll just at an angle tap it on the edges. So I turn my ink pad at an angle and tap it along the edges of my stamp. Sometimes this can give you a little bit of a harsh line, so what I like to do once I've got my ink on is take the very edge of a makeup sponge and just dab it right in the center of the stamps to really pull up some of that ink, soften up the edges. This will give you a very blended look, and you're not going to get any of those harsh edges. It's just a beautiful stamped image that's perfectly blended. Now, because I centered this before I started working, I can go ahead and just flip my paper over and stamp this down on the top, which is now the bottom, but I just flip my paper over in my Misty and I can stamp this down super easily the same exact way. I know I've got it in a perfect circle now. They're going to line up perfectly and everything's going to be nice and even. I'm doing that same technique using the makeup sponge to pull up any color in the center and soften up those edges, and I'll stamp that down, and now I've got my perfectly blended two-toned image. These inks are also going to sink into the paper and blend a little bit more and soften up. Now, to get my houses die cut in the center, I'm going to use my Tim Holtz ruler to make sure they're nice and straight and also nice and even. So I just line up the edges of my die cut very evenly with my ruler. Then I can take a piece of painter's tape, very carefully place it down, secure all of those right in place. I know they're straight, I know they're even, and I can send these through my die cutting machine without any worry about them shifting on me now that they're taped in place. So I'll send those through, and I want to make sure that I keep the windows from this. The windows, and if there are any doors, I can't remember for sure. But I will go ahead and make sure I save those off to the side in a little bowl, because I don't want to lose those. I'm also going to use those same die cuts and die cut some of the peel and stick toner sheets from Deco Foil. Now I like these because the adhesive is already on them. However, if you have a laser printer and you don't have this project, you can make your own toner paper just by printing off a huge rectangle onto a piece of cardstock. It's that simple. I like these because I know the toner is really on there. It's going to die cut beautifully, and also I've got that adhesive on the back, so I don't have to worry about adding any more adhesive to these. I'm going to put these in a carrier sheet, and I'm adding a little bit of gold foil with the shiny side up, and I'll run this through my laminator. You can use your mink machine, whatever you have on hand to make this work. I wanted to make sure these didn't shift on me, so I'm just going to tape them down and move very carefully. I've got my laminator that's been heating up. It's set to 5 mils. It's been on for about 30 minutes, really, 30 to 45 minutes. I let it heat up so I get it nice and hot. And then I'll go ahead and send my paper through with my die cuts in it. This just takes a few seconds, and I just let these go through. Once they've gone through, I can go ahead and give them a few seconds to cool off. It just helps the foil stick better, and you don't have any chance of pulling up any extra foil from the die cuts. Then I can remove that top layer of foil, and I've got these gorgeous shiny little houses that are my own little embellishments ready to go on my card. Now again, these have adhesive on the back of them, which is super nice. So now I don't have to fuss with any of that little bitty adhesive when I go to put these on later. And the laminator, I should mention, doesn't damage the adhesive at all either. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment on before I do any extra work on this. So I pulled off a sentiment from the Cozy Christmas stamp set that says, "From our home to yours." I'm stamping that down with Catherine Pooler's Icing on the Cake ink, which is just a brown dye ink. It's very dark and rich. And then I'll also stamp on the inside of my card base before I go and do any work on the outside too. So I pulled off Merry Christmas from the same stamp set. And then I went ahead and mounted my little wreath onto my Misty, stretched out those arms again to kind of fit the sentiment. And I bumped up my paper a little bit because I noticed my it was off just a little bit. So instead of moving my stamp, I just like to move my little arm in the corner. I'm doing the same stamping technique I did on the outside. I added 2 layers of bamboo leaves. Then I'll take my little olive grove, tap it on just the outside edges, using that stamp pad at an angle to just really get those edges. And then I'll come in with my little makeup sponge, remove the center, soften up those harsh edges, and then I can go ahead and stamp this down. I'm going to get that gorgeous blended look just like I did on the outside. I also did die cut a little star from that same Home and Her stamp set, added a little bit of gold foil to it as well, put that right in the center, and there's the inside of my card. Super simple, but it's gorgeous just as well. Now on my panel that I did all my stamping on the outside, I'm adding some fun foam and double-sided adhesive or dimensional adhesive to the back of that to pop it up a little bit. I'm mounting that on a piece of red cardstock that is slightly larger, and you can see I've got those nice die cut openings that are ready to be filled in with their little puzzle pieces. This is kind of like putting a puzzle together for me. I really like doing die cut inlay. If this isn't for you, that's okay. This one's super simple. You do have to put in those windows, but I didn't even fuss with putting any dimensional adhesive on the back of those. I'll show you in just a moment. I just like to take off that backing paper on the peel and stick foil. You can see, or the toner sheets, you can see just how easy that is to just kind of peel off that backing paper and pop those right into place. Fits like a glove each and every time. So I added my center one, and then I'll go ahead and add my little 2 houses on either side. And then it was time to start putting in those windows. Now because the white panel is raised up a little bit, you could add little bits of tiny adhesive to the back of the windows. I did not want to fuss with that. I just thought it was too much work. It doesn't add that much dimension anyway. So I went ahead and just used my little zig pen, added dots of glue, used my quick sticks tool, and just placed those windows right in. I love this tool because it's so easy. You don't have to get your fingers all gluey, and also you can see a little bit of glue smushed out. I just used that little tool on the end there to kind of scrape it up. And then once I had all the windows in, it was time to put the front of the card together. So I just added some adhesive on the back of this. I didn't add dimensional adhesive. You could if you wanted to, but I already had my first layer on the top. So I'm going to open up my card and place this down on my A2 top folding card base. Made sure I had it going the right way because we've all done that a time or two, or at least I have a bunch, more than a time or two, to be honest. And I went ahead and placed that down now that I knew it was the right way. Now this is gorgeous as is. I kind of wish I would have just left it. However, I grabbed out my pale gold Nuvo drops and I added a few of those just to both wreaths. You could also take those little die cuts like I did with the star and add those to the top and bottom of the wreath. You could add little bows if you wanted to. That would be gorgeous. I'm not sure about the Nuvo drops. They're okay. I'm not sure about them. I kind of wish I would have left them off, but I did add them on anyway. And there's a final look at the card. Very, very shiny and gold. I love the way it turned out, and the inside is so much fun too. Just adding that little bit of stamping really helps bring the whole thing together. Here are a few final looks at the card. You've got those gorgeous shiny foils. The pictures just don't do them justice. There's not a great way to really photograph those. There you get a little bit of that shine. You can see keeping those windows on the same level doesn't really hurt it at all, and it's a lot easier and saves you from going crazy. That is going to do it for me today. There are links on the left side of your screen you can click on. You can subscribe to my channel over there as well. All my social media links are always down in the description box. You can find me over there. Thanks for watching, and happy crafting.